The morning alarm echoed through the metal halls of Apex Military Academy. Taman Park opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling of his small quarters. Another day of training. Another day of proving himself in a galaxy that still looked at humans as the newcomers. He got dressed in his cadet uniform and walked to the cafeteria. The massive room was filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. The Rakesh sat at their tables, their purple armored bodies taking up twice the space of anyone else. Each one had 4 powerful arms and stood nearly 8 feet tall. They ate their protein blocks in silence, following their warrior traditions. The Keltorians moved between tables with liquid grace. Their sleek bodies were built for speed and hunting. Golden eyes tracked every movement in the room. They were natural predators, and they never let anyone forget it. The Mindari floated near the windows, their crystalline skin catching the morning light. They spoke to each other without words, their telepathic conversations invisible to everyone else. Sometimes Taman wondered what they thought about when they looked at humans. Hana Choi waved at him from a corner table. She sat with Jiwon Song, both of them hunched over data tablets. Taman grabbed his breakfast and joined them. "Did you hear?" Hana said before Taman could even sit down. Her eyes were bright with nervous energy. They announced it. "The trial of dominance is happening in 3 days." Jiwon pushed his glasses up his nose. "They are bringing in a Ravenclaw Titan from Krev 9. His voice shook slightly. "Do you know what those things can do?" Taman took a bite of his food. "Tell me." "They are 12 feet tall," Jiwon said, pulling up images on his tablet. "Obsidian scales that can deflect plasma rounds. Claws that cut through starship hulls. They come from a death world with gravity more than twice Earth's. And they are smart, Taman. Really smart. The last trial with one of these creatures killed 4 cadets and injured 17 more." Hana leaned forward. "The Academy usually gives us challenges we can handle. This is different. They are testing us with something designed to kill." Taman studied the image on the tablet. The Ravenclaw Titan looked like something from ancient nightmares, black as midnight, built like a fusion of a bear and a dragon with eyes that gleamed with intelligence. "When do we find out who has to face it?" "That is the thing," Hana said quietly. "All senior cadets participate. That means us." Around them, the cafeteria buzzed with conversation. The Vrakesh were already planning battle formations. The Keltorians discussed ambush tactics. The Mindari remained quiet, but Taman could feel the tension in the air. A loud voice cut through the noise. "Humans should sit this one out." Taman did not need to look up to know who spoke. Crixthor, a Keltorian cadet with golden fur and too much pride, stood near their table with his pack. His lips curled back to show sharp teeth. "This is a trial for real warriors," Crixthor continued, "not for soft-skinned children who only joined the coalition 200 years ago. My people have hunted creatures like this for thousands of years." Hana started to stand, but Taman put a hand on her arm. He looked up at Crixthor calmly. "Then you should do well in the trial." Crixthor leaned closer. "When you fail, human, try not to cry. It makes you look weak." "I will remember that," Taman said, returning to his breakfast. The Keltorian snarled and walked away. Jiwon let out a breath he had been holding. "Why do you always stay so calm? Do not you want to defend yourself?" "Words are just noise," Taman said. "Actions matter more." Later that day, all senior cadets gathered in the main assembly hall. Instructor Velthano stood on the platform, his massive Rakesh frame covered in scars from decades of combat. His forearms were crossed and his expression was stern. "The trial of dominance is not meant to be easy," his voice boomed across the hall. "It is meant to test everything you have learned here. Strategy, courage, teamwork, and survival instinct. In 3 days you will enter an arena with a creature that has ended the careers of warriors, far more experienced than you." A hologram appeared above the platform. The Ravenclaw Titan moved across a rocky landscape, its movements fluid despite its massive size. Cadets watched in silence as it demonstrated its speed and power, destroying training drones with casual efficiency. "You will have 12 hours, Velthanos continued. "Survive, escape, or subdue the creature. Those are your options. Lethal force is disabled, but injuries are real. Pain is real. Failure is real." Commander Yelsara, a Mindari with skin like blue crystal, floated forward. Her voice was gentle but firm. "We have concerns about some species participating in this trial. The Ravenclaw Titan has never faced human cadets before. We do not know how it will react to your scent, your size, or your tactics." Murmurs spread through the hall. Some sounded relieved. Others sounded insulted. Therefore, Commander Yelsera said, human cadets may choose to sit out this trial without penalty. Your graduation will not be affected. Taman felt every eye in the room turn toward the human section. There were only 12 human cadets in the senior class. Hana and Jiwon looked at him with questions in their eyes. Vilthanos spoke again. This is not an insult to humans. This is recognition that different species have different strengths. There is no shame in acknowledging when a challenge is beyond your capabilities. Taman stood up. The movement was quiet, but in the silent hall everyone noticed. Cadet Park, Commander Yelsara said. I would like to participate, Taman said clearly. Vilthanos' eyes narrowed. You understand the risks? Yes, instructor. You understand that your physical capabilities are limited compared to other species in this trial? Yes, instructor. Then why volunteer? Taman thought about his grandmother, who survived wars and famines with nothing but determination. He thought about humanity's long history of facing impossible odds. He thought about every time someone told humans they were too weak, too slow, too fragile for the galaxy. Because that is what humans do, he said simply. We face what scares us. The hall erupted in whispers. Krixthor laughed loudly. The Verkesh cadets nodded with something like respect. The Mindari watched Taman with interest. Commander Yelsara studied him for a long moment. Very well, Cadet Park, you may participate. That evening, Taman stood alone on the observation deck. Through the massive windows he could see Garrison Prime below, its surface covered in training facilities and testing grounds. Somewhere down there, the Ravenclaw Titan waited in containment. Hana found him there. You did not have to volunteer, she said softly. No one would think less of you. I would think less of me, Taman replied. Do you have a plan? Not yet. That is not reassuring. Taman smiled slightly. Plans are good, but adaptability is better. We will see what happens when we meet this creature. Meet it? Hana shook her head. Taman, we need to survive it, not have tea with it. Maybe, Taman said, still watching the planet below. Or maybe we need to understand it. Hana was quiet for a moment. You really are different from everyone else here, you know that. Is that good or bad? I am not sure yet, she said. Ask me after we survive the trial. 3 days felt like both forever and no time at all. Taman spent his time watching recordings of the Ravenclaw Titan, studying its movements, its reactions, its behavior. Everyone else prepared weapons and strategies. Taman simply watched and learned. On the morning of the trial, he woke early. He dressed carefully, checked his gear, and walked to the transport bay with calm steps. Other cadets rushed around in nervous energy. Taman breathed slowly and centered himself. The arena waited. The creature waited. And Taman Park, a human from a small planet in a vast galaxy, walked forward to meet his test. The transport shuttle descended through the atmosphere toward the trial arena. Taman sat between Hana and Jiwon, watching the other cadets prepare themselves in different ways. The Verkesh checked their armor plates and practiced combat formations in the cramped space. The Keltorians sharpened their claws on whetstone strips. The Mindari sat in meditation, their crystalline skin pulsing with soft light. 50 cadets total, 1 creature, 12 hours. The arena itself was a massive biodome that could recreate any environment in known space. Through the shuttle windows, Taman could see its curved surface reflecting the morning sun. Inside that dome, the Academy had built a piece of Krev 9, the death world home of the Ravenclaw Titan. Breathe masks on, the pilot announced. Krev 9 atmosphere is nitrogen heavy. You will pass out in minutes without filtration. Everyone attached their breathing masks. The air tasted metallic and cold. Taman adjusted his mask and checked that his water supply was full. 12 hours was a long time to stay alert. The shuttle landed on a platform at the arena's edge. The doors opened and heat hit them like a physical wall. 40 degrees Celsius, Jiwon had said. The air shimmered above the purple-black rocks that made up the landscape. Move out, Instructor Velthanos' voice boomed from the speakers. You have 30 minutes before the Ravenclaw Titan is released. Use that time wisely. Remember, your goal is to survive. There is no prize for heroics. Only consequences for stupidity. The cadets spread out into the arena. The environment was harsh and alien. Purple vegetation that looked like twisted coral grew from cracks in the rocks. Deep ravines cut through the landscape like wounds. In the distance, jagged cliffs rose into the filtered light that mimicked Krev 9's eternal twilight. The Verkesh immediately moved to a defensive position near a cluster of large boulders. They formed a tight circle, all forearms of each warrior holding different weapons. Their plan was clear: stand together, present a unified threat, and fight as one unit. The Keltorians scattered in different directions. They were ambush hunters by nature. They would hide, wait, and strike when the creature showed weakness. Crixthor climbed up a cliff face with ease, his claws finding purchase in the rock. The Mindari floated to the highest ground they could find. From there, they could use their telepathy to coordinate and share information across distances. They began linking their minds, creating a network of shared consciousness. Hana pulled out her tactical scanner. We need to find shelter. Somewhere defensible but with multiple escape routes. Jiwan pointed to a ravine about 200 meters away. There. That crack in the ground has overhangs we can hide under. If the creature comes, we can move through the narrow spaces. It is too big to follow easily. Good thinking, Hana said. She looked at Taman. What do you think? Taman was not looking at the ravine. He was studying the arena as a whole, turning slowly to take in every detail. You two go there. Set up a safe position. I want to observe first. Observe what? Jiwan's voice went up. Taman, that thing is going to be released in 25 minutes. Exactly. I want to see where they release it from. How it moves. What it does first. Hana grabbed his arm. That is insane. You will be exposed. I will be careful, Taman said calmly. Trust me. Before either of them could argue more, Taman walked away. He found a position on a slight rise with good visibility in all directions. He crouched behind a purple, coral-like plant and waited. Hana and Jiwan exchanged looks. He's going to get himself killed, Jiwan muttered. Maybe, Hana said. But when has he ever done what we expected? They moved toward the ravine, looking back at Taman several times. The 30 minutes passed slowly. Taman controlled his breathing and watched. He noticed how the other cadets positioned themselves. He noticed the wind patterns, the temperature changes, the way sound carried in this environment. Everything was information. Then the speakers crackled. Release imminent. All cadets, brace yourselves. A massive gate on the far side of the arena began to open. The sound of metal grinding on metal echoed across the landscape. Every cadet tensed. For a moment, nothing happened. The gate stood open like a dark mouth. Then it emerged. The Ravenclaw Titan moved into the arena with terrible grace. 12 feet of pure predator. Its obsidian scales absorbed light rather than reflected it. Each step was silent despite its mass. Its head swept from side to side, taking in its surroundings with intelligent amber eyes. Taman felt his heart beat faster, but he did not move. He watched. The creature stopped in the center of the arena. It raised its head and roared. The sound was beyond anything Taman had imagined. It was not just noise. It was pressure. Force, a physical thing that traveled through the air and into his chest. Several cadets collapsed immediately, their bodies unable to handle the sonic assault. The Mindari's telepathic network shattered, and they cried out in pain. The Ravenclaw Titan had announced itself. Now it would hunt. It moved toward the Vrakesh position first. The four-armed warriors raised their weapons and shouted their battle cries. Plasma rounds streaked toward the creature. It dodged with impossible speed for something so large. The shots that connected bounced off its scales like water off stone. The Titan crashed into the Vrakesh formation like a meteor. Despite their size and strength, the warriors were scattered. The creature's tail swept 3 of them off their feet. Its claws struck with surgical precision, hitting nerve clusters and joint points. Within 2 minutes, 8 Vrakesh cadets lay unconscious or groaning in pain. The remaining Vrakesh tried to regroup, but the Titan was already moving to its next target. The Keltorians sprung their ambush. 3 of them dropped from above, claws extended, aiming for the creature's eyes and neck. The Ravenclaw Titan twisted in midair, impossibly agile. It caught one Keltorian in its jaws, not biting down, just holding. It threw the cadet 30 feet into a rock wall. The other 2 Keltorians landed hits, but their claws skittered off the obsidian scales. The Titan's tail whipped around and struck both of them. They flew backward and did not get up. Crixthor watched from his high position, his golden eyes wide. The creature looked up at him, met his gaze, and something like amusement flickered in those amber eyes. Then it turned away, dismissing him as no threat. The Mindari tried to use their telepathy to confuse it. They pushed mental pressure at the creature, attempting to disorient it. The Ravenclaw Titan's eyes flashed. It roared again, and the Mindari clutched their heads in agony. Their crystalline skin cracked under the stress. The creature bounded toward them, eliminating them one by one with efficient strikes. 30 cadets down in less than an hour. Taman watched it all from his hiding spot. He saw something that others missed. The creature was not just attacking. It was testing. Every time it encountered a new species, it tried different tactics. It learned from each interaction. When the Vrikesh used plasma weapons, it dodged until it understood their firing patterns. When the Keltorians used speed, it adapted to match them. When the Mindari used telepathy, it found their weakness and exploited it. This was not a mindless beast. This was an intelligent hunter conducting experiments. In the ravine, Hana and Jiwon huddled under an overhang. They could hear the sounds of combat echoing across the arena. Screams, roars, the crunch of bodies hitting stone. "Where is Taman?" Jiwon whispered. "I do not know," Hana said, her hands shaking. "I cannot see him from here. We should have stayed together. He wanted to observe. You know how he is." Another roar split the air, closer this time. Both humans pressed themselves deeper into the shadows. The Ravenclaw Titan appeared at the edge of their ravine. It looked down into the crack in the ground, nostrils flaring as it scented the air. Amber eyes locked onto their hiding spot. "Do not move," Hana breathed. "Do not even breathe." The creature's head tilted, studying them. Then something distracted it. A sound from another direction. It turned and bounded away toward another group of cadets. Jiwon let out a shaky breath. "It knew we were here. It knew, and it just left." "It is playing with us," Hana realized. "It knows it has 12 hours. It is not in a hurry." 4 hours into the trial, 40 cadets were out of action. The remaining 10 were scattered, hiding, trying desperately to survive. The Ravenclaw Titan stalked through the arena like a shadow, hunting at its leisure. Taman had not moved from his position. He watched the creature's patterns, watched how it moved, how it thought, how it chose its targets. He saw the intelligence in its actions, the careful way it left some cadets conscious but injured, so their fear would spread, the way it tested every defense it encountered. The creature was not trying to kill. It was trying to dominate. To prove superiority, Taman made his decision. He stood up in full view and stepped out from behind his cover. In the observation room, instructors shouted in alarm. Hana, watching from a distance through her scope, felt her heart stop. The Ravenclaw Titan's head snapped around. It saw Taman standing alone in an open space. No weapons raised, no defensive posture, just a human standing still, meeting its gaze. The creature's eyes narrowed. Here was something new, something that did not run or fight. It began to move toward Taman, slow and deliberate. Taman took off his weapon belt and let it fall to the ground. He removed his tactical gear until he wore only his basic uniform. No threat, no challenge. In the observation room high above the arena, chaos erupted. Instructor Velthanos slammed one of his 4 fists on the control panel. "Abort the trial. Get him out of there now." Commander Yelsara raised her crystalline hand. Wait. Velthanos turned to her, his scarred face twisted in disbelief. "That human is about to die." "Look at him," the Mindari commander said softly. "Really look." On the screens, Taman stood motionless before the Ravenclaw Titan. The massive creature loomed over him, obsidian scales gleaming in the filtered light. Its claws, each one long enough to pierce through Taman's entire body, were extended. Its mouth was slightly open, showing rows of crystalline teeth, but it had not attacked. The Titan circled Taman slowly, its amber eyes never leaving the human. Each step made the ground tremble slightly. Purple dust rose with each footfall. Taman remained perfectly still, his breathing steady and controlled. "What is he doing?" an instructor whispered. Velthanos watched the screen more carefully. His warrior instincts told him something unusual was happening. The creature was not preparing to strike. It was studying. In the arena, Taman kept his eyes on the Ravenclaw Titan. He could feel the heat radiating from its body, could smell the strange scent it carried like heated metal and earth after rain. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to fight, to do something. But he knew that would be wrong. He had watched this creature for hours. He had seen how it responded to aggression with overwhelming force, how it responded to fear with pursuit, how it tested every reaction it encountered. So Taman gave it something it had never seen before: absolute calm. The Titan completed its circle and stopped in front of Taman again. It lowered its massive head until its face was level with the human's. 3 meters became 2, Then one. Taman could see his reflection in the creature's amber eyes. He could feel its breath, hot and heavy, washing over him. This close, the Ravenclaw Titan was even more impressive. Its scales were not just black, but held depths of color, like looking into deep water at night. Scars marked its hide, evidence of battles fought and won. This was an apex predator, a creature born on a world where only the strongest survived. Taman recognized that because he came from such a world too, not in the same way, but in the way that mattered. Earth had tested humanity with ice and fire, with predators and plagues, with nature itself. Humans survived not through strength but through stubbornness and adaptation. Taman began to speak. His voice was quiet, barely above a whisper. He spoke in Korean, the language of his childhood, the language of his grandmother's stories. "I know what you are," he said. "You are a survivor, a fighter. You were born in a place where everything wanted to kill you, and you learned to kill first. I understand that. My people know that too." The Ravenclaw Titan's eyes narrowed slightly. It could not understand the words, but it understood tone. It understood the lack of fear in Taman's voice. "They brought you here to test us," Taman continued, "to see if we are worthy to be warriors. But I think you are also testing to see if any of us are worthy of your respect. That is what this is really about, is it not? Not dominance, recognition." Taman slowly, very slowly, lowered himself to the ground. He sat cross-legged on the purple rocks, vulnerable and exposed. His hands rested on his knees, open and empty. It was the most dangerous thing he had done yet. In the observation room, someone gasped. Hana, watching from her ravine through her scope, felt tears sting her eyes. Jiwon grabbed her arm so hard it hurt. The Ravenclaw Titan could kill Taman with a single motion. In this position, Taman had no defense, no chance of escape. He had made himself completely defenseless or completely confident. The creature's head tilted. It made a sound, not the roar from before, but a low rumbling that came from deep in its chest. A questioning sound. Its tail, which had been lashing back and forth, became still. Minutes passed. The arena was silent except for the wind moving through the strange purple vegetation. The remaining conscious cadets watched from their hiding places, unable to believe what they were seeing. Krixthor, still on his high perch, whispered to himself, "Impossible." The Ravenclaw Titan took a step back. Then another. It was not retreating in fear or confusion. It was making a decision. Those intelligent amber eyes studied Taman from this new distance. Then, in a movement that would be talked about for years to come, the creature lowered itself to the ground. It lay down 15 feet from Taman, its massive body settling onto the rocks like a mountain finding its place. Its head remained up, alert and watchful, but its posture had changed. It was no longer in hunt mode. It was waiting. Taman let out a slow breath. He had hoped for this, but hope and certainty were different things. He remained sitting for another minute, letting the moment settle, letting the creature confirm its choice. Then Taman stood. He moved slowly, every gesture deliberate and clear. The Ravenclaw Titan watched but did not rise. Taman took a step forward. The creature's eyes tracked him but showed no aggression. Another step. Another. Taman closed the distance between them until he stood just a few feet from the Titan's head. This close, he could see the individual scales, each one perfectly designed for defense. He could see old scars, marks of battles on a death world. He could see the intelligence in those eyes, an awareness that went beyond simple animal cunning. Taman extended his hand, palm up, fingers open. A gesture of peace that crossed species barriers. The Ravenclaw Titan looked at his hand, then at his face, then back at his hand. It leaned forward slowly. Its nostrils flared as it scented Taman's hand. Once, twice, 3 times. Taman could feel the hot breath on his palm, could feel the potential violence in the creature's proximity. The Titan made a decision. It lowered its head and pressed its scaled forehead against Taman's extended hand. The arena erupted. From the observation room, instructors shouted in confusion and amazement. The remaining cadets emerged from hiding, staring in disbelief. Hana laughed and cried at the same time. Jiwon just kept saying, "No way, no way, no way." Taman felt the warmth of the creature's scales under his palm, felt the slight vibration of its breathing. This was not submission. This was recognition. 2 survivors from death worlds, acknowledging each other as equals. He moved his hand slowly, gently touching the Titan's head, feeling the texture of scales that could deflect weapons. The creature's eyes closed slightly, not in sleep but in something like contentment. "I see you," Taman whispered in Korean. "And you see me." The Ravenclaw Titan made that rumbling sound again, deeper and longer. Then it rose to its feet in one fluid motion. It towered over Taman once more, but the dynamic had changed completely. It turned its head toward the other cadets who were cautiously emerging from hiding. One of the Vrakesh warriors, recovered from his earlier injuries, took a step forward. The Titan's eyes snapped to him and it growled, a clear warning. The Vrakesh froze. But when Taman walked forward, the creature moved with him, not following like a trained animal, moving alongside him like a partner. Crixthor climbed down from his perch, his golden eyes wide with something Taman had never seen before. Genuine shock. The proud Keltorian approached carefully, his usual arrogance gone. "How?" was all he could say. Taman looked at the Ravenclaw Titan, who watched Crixthor with alert but not hostile eyes. "I did not try to dominate it. I did not try to run from it. I just acknowledged it for what it is. An equal. Equals." A Vrakesh warrior shook his head. "That creature is a killing machine." "So are you," Taman said simply. "So are all of us in our own ways. That is why we are here at this academy. But there is a difference between a warrior and a murderer. Warriors understand respect." Commander Yelsara's voice came over the arena speakers. "All cadets remain calm. The trial is being suspended. Cadet Park, please step away from the creature." Taman looked up at the observation windows. "I do not think it will let me, Commander." As if to prove his point, when Taman took a step to the side, the Ravenclaw Titan moved with him. When he stood still, it stood still. When he turned to face the other cadets, the creature positioned itself at his side like a guardian. Hana and Jiwon approached carefully. The Titan watched them but did not react aggressively. Hana looked at Taman with a mixture of pride and exasperation. "You are insane," she said. "Probably," Taman agreed. "But you did it. You actually did it." Taman looked at the Ravenclaw Titan. "We did it. This creature chose to stop fighting. That was its decision, not mine." Velthanos' voice boomed over the speakers. "All cadets are to exit the arena immediately. Medical teams are standing by. Cadet Park, you will report to the council chamber in 1 hour." The other cadets began moving toward the exit platform. Many of them limped from injuries. Some were carried by their teammates. As they passed Taman and the Titan, they stared with expressions ranging from awe to confusion to resentment. The Ravenclaw Titan watched them all go, its amber eyes tracking each movement. When the last cadet had left, Taman turned toward the exit himself. The creature followed. "You cannot come with me," Taman said, though he felt foolish talking to it. The Titan rumbled deep in its chest and kept following. At the exit platform, handlers and trainers waited with containment. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. It was a massive circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from a dozen species looked down at whoever stood in the center. Taman had never been called before the council before. Most cadets never were. He stood on the platform in a fresh uniform, his hands clasped behind his back. The council members whispered among themselves in various languages and telepathic bursts. Commander Yelsara sat at the highest point, her crystalline form catching and refracting the light. Instructor Velthanos stood to one side, his forearms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Cadet Taman Park," Commander Yelsara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Do you understand why you have been summoned?" "Yes, Commander." "Explain what happened in the arena." "Leave out no details." Taman took a breath and began. He described watching the creature's behavior, noticing its intelligence and testing patterns. He explained his decision to approach it without weapons or aggression. He detailed the confrontation, the silent communication, and the moment the Ravenclaw Titan chose to acknowledge him. The council listened in silence. When Taman finished, they exchanged glances. A Keltorian counselor stood, his golden fur bristling. "What you describe is impossible. The Ravenclaw Titans are bred and trained for combat. They do not submit to anyone, let alone a species as physically weak as humans." "I did not ask it to submit," Taman said carefully. "I offered respect." "There is a difference. Respect?" A Vrakesh counselor's voice was deep and skeptical. "You cannot respect something into obedience." "I did not want obedience," Taman replied. "I wanted understanding." Velthanos stepped forward. "The cadet makes an interesting point. In all my years training warriors, I have taught domination, strategy, and strength. But perhaps we have forgotten that true warriors also understand when not to fight. A Mindari counselor, her skin shimmering blue and silver, spoke softly. Commander Yelsara, may I probe the cadet's mind? With his permission, of course. I wish to understand what he felt during the confrontation. Taman nodded. You have my permission. The Mindari floated down from her seat and approached Taman. She placed her crystalline fingers on his temples. Her eyes closed, and Taman felt a gentle presence in his mind, like someone looking through his memories. After a long moment, she withdrew and returned to her seat. Her expression was thoughtful. What did you find? Commander Yelsara asked. No fear, the Mindari said. Or rather, fear was present but controlled. What dominated his thoughts was curiosity and respect. When he faced the Titan, he did not see a monster. He saw another being from a death world. He recognized in that creature something familiar, the will to survive, the strength born from struggle. That is absurd, the Keltorian counselor snapped. Humans are not from a death world. Earth is classified as a garden world. Hana's voice cut through the chamber. She had been allowed to attend as a witness. With respect, counselor, you are wrong. Every eye turned to her. She stood in the witness section, her hands trembling slightly but her voice steady. Earth may look peaceful now, but it has not always been. Humans survived ice ages that buried continents. We survived predators with claws and teeth designed to kill us. We survived diseases that wiped out half our population. We survived each other through wars and famines and disasters. We are not the strongest species or the fastest or the smartest, but we are the most stubborn. We endure. Velthanos rumbled thoughtfully. The human makes a valid point. Perhaps we have underestimated their history. Commander Yelsara raised her hand for silence. The question remains, what do we do now? The Ravenclaw Titan has bonded with Cadet Park. Our handlers report it refuses to interact with anyone else. It becomes aggressive if they approach without the cadet present. We could sedate it, suggested a counselor. Return it to containment and end this anomaly. No. The voice was firm and unexpected. Instructor Velthanos stepped fully into the light. This is not an anomaly. This is an opportunity. For years we have struggled to understand and work with creatures from death worlds. They are too aggressive, too unpredictable. We have lost good people trying to contain them. But this human found a way to connect with one of the most dangerous creatures we have encountered. What are you suggesting? Commander Yelsara asked. Create a new program, Death World Integration. Let Cadet Park work with the Ravenclaw Titan. Study their interaction. Learn from it. If we can replicate this success, we could change how the Coalition handles dangerous species. The Council erupted in debate. Some thought it was brilliant. Others called it dangerous and foolish. Arguments flew back and forth in multiple languages. Commander Yelsara finally raised both hands and silence fell. We will vote. All in favor of creating the Death World Integration Program and assigning Cadet Park as its first participant. More hands rose than Taman expected. The motion passed. However, the commander continued, and there is a condition. The trial is not finished. Cadet Park must complete it properly. He will return to the arena with the remaining cadets and the Ravenclaw Titan. They will complete the 12-hour survival challenge as originally planned. Taman felt his stomach tighten. Commander, the creature will not attack me, but it may attack others. Then you must ensure it does not, Yelsara said simply. You claim to have a connection with this creature. Prove it. Show us that this bond means something. You have 3 days to prepare. The council dismissed him. As Taman walked out of the chamber, Hana and Jiwan rushed to his side. 3 days? Jiwan's voice was high with stress. How are you supposed to train a Death World predator in 3 days? I do not think I can train it, Taman said, but maybe I can work with it. The next 3 days were unlike anything Taman had experienced. The academy gave him access to the arena during off hours. Handlers nervously escorted him inside, weapons ready, while the Ravenclaw Titan paced at the far end. The moment Taman entered, the creature's behavior changed. It stopped pacing and moved toward him with what could only be called eagerness. The handlers tensed, but the Titan ignored them completely. It approached Taman and lowered its head, the same gesture from before. Taman placed his hand on the creature's scales. Hello again, he said in Korean. Over the next 3 days, Taman spent hours in the arena with the Titan. He did not try to command it or control it. Instead, he observed its natural behaviors and worked with them. He learned that the creature responded to tone and gesture more than words. He discovered it had a playful side, chasing thrown objects with surprising enthusiasm. He found that it understood complex concepts like designated areas and boundaries. Most importantly, he learned the creature had a name in its own way, a specific rumble it made when referring to itself. Taman could not replicate the exact sound with his human vocal cords, but he gave it a name in his language, Bako. White tiger. It seemed fitting even though the Titan's scales were black. Bako responded to the name. Or perhaps it responded to Taman's intent behind the name. Either way, a deeper bond formed. Hana visited during the training sessions, watching from the safety of the observation room. "It is remarkable," she said to Ji-won. "Look how they move together." Taman points and Bako looks. Taman walks and Bako follows. But it is not obedience. It is cooperation. "I hope the other cadets see it that way," Ji-won muttered. Some of them are angry that a human succeeded where they failed. On the morning of the resumed trial, all remaining cadets who were medically cleared gathered once more. Many bore bandages and healing injuries from the first attempt. They looked at Taman with mixed emotions, some with respect, others with resentment. Krixthor watched with unreadable eyes. Commander Yelsara addressed them all. "This trial will proceed with different parameters. Your goal is not just survival. It is cooperation. You will work with Cadet Park and the Ravenclaw Titan to complete a series of challenges. Hostile training drones will be deployed. You must neutralize them. Together." The cadets exchanged nervous glances. Working with the creature that had defeated them days before, it seemed impossible. They entered the arena. Bako was already there, waiting. When it saw Taman, its whole posture changed. The predatory stalking became something else. Recognition, perhaps even joy. Taman walked to the center of the arena. "Listen," he called to the other cadets. "Beko will not attack you unless you threaten it or me. But it will also not follow your commands. This only works if we cooperate. Trust me and trust each other." "Easy for you to say," a Vrakesh cadet muttered. "That thing broke 3 of my arms." "And you attacked it with plasma weapons," Taman replied. "Actions have consequences. But this is a chance to do better." The first wave of drones appeared, small, fast, equipped with stun weapons. The cadets instinctively fell into combat formation. Beko tensed, recognizing a threat. Taman placed his hand on Beko's side. "Watch," he said quietly. Then louder to the cadets, "Hana, what is the optimal strategy?" Hana pulled out her scanner. "Drones are shielded against direct energy weapons. We need to disable them physically. Keltorians have the speed. Vrakesh have the strength. Mindari can predict their movements." "And Beko?" Taman asked. Hana looked at the massive creature. "Beko can reach the ones in high." 3 months had passed since the trial that changed everything. The Apex Military Academy looked the same from the outside, but inside something fundamental had shifted. The Death World Integration Program was no longer a controversial experiment. It was becoming the future. Taman walked through the corridors with Beko at his side. People no longer ran in fear. They stepped aside respectfully, many offering greetings. The massive Ravenclaw Titan had become a fixture of Academy life, and cadets from every species now requested to observe training sessions. The morning sun filtered through the observatory windows as Taman entered the training hall. A group of new cadets waited there, their expressions nervous and excited. Among them were 3 humans, 2 Vrakesh, 1 Keltorian, and 2 Mindari. "All volunteers for the program, good morning," Taman said. He had grown into his role as instructor, though he still felt strange giving orders to people his own age or older.
Today we begin with the basics.
Understanding, not controlling. Respect, not dominance. Beko settled beside him, amber eyes scanning the new students. The Titan had become gentler in these months, but no less impressive. Its presence still commanded attention. One of the human cadets raised her hand. "Sir, is it true that you spoke to the Titan without words? That you just understood each other?" Taman smiled slightly. "Not exactly. Beko and I learned to communicate through observation and patience. It is the same process you will learn. Watch, listen, adapt. These creatures are not pets or weapons. They are partners if you earn their respect." The training session lasted 3 hours. Taman demonstrated how to read Beko's body language, how to use tone and gesture effectively, and how to establish trust without forcing submission. The new cadets watched with intense focus, taking notes and asking questions. Afterward, Hana found Taemin in the cafeteria. She wore the insignia of a tactical officer now. Having graduated top of her class, Jiwon sat beside her, sporting new engineering specialist badges. "The council wants to see you," Hana said, sliding a data tablet across the table. "There has been a situation on the frontier." Taemin read the report. A mining colony on a planet called Taros 7 had been experiencing attacks. The creatures responsible were similar to Ravenclaw Titans, native to that world and protective of their territory. The mining company had pushed too far into protected lands. Traditional military response had failed. "The creatures were too intelligent and adaptive. They want us to mediate," Jiwon said quietly. "They think you can talk to these creatures like you talk to Beko." "They are not Beko," Taemin said. "Every creature is different, but maybe we can find a way to communicate." 3 days later, Taemin stood on the bridge of a coalition transport ship, watching Taros 7 grow larger in the viewport. Hana commanded the tactical station. Jiwon monitored environmental systems. And in the cargo bay, Beko waited in a specially designed habitat. The mining colony was a collection of prefabricated buildings and heavy equipment carved into a rocky plateau. When the ship landed, the colony administrator rushed to meet them. She was a tall Vrkesh woman named Korsana, her purple carapace dusty from the planet's environment. "Thank you for coming," she said, her 4 hands clasped in relief. "We have lost 16 workers to injuries. The creatures attack our equipment, destroy our supplies. We cannot continue operations like this." "Show me where the attacks occur," Taemin said. Korsana led them to the colony's edge, where the mining operations extended into a valley filled with strange crystalline formations. "We need those crystals for power cores, but the creatures claim this valley as their territory." Taemin studied the landscape. The formations were beautiful and clearly important to the native ecosystem. "Have you tried relocating your operations?" "The crystals only grow here. We have no choice." "There is always a choice," Hana said firmly. "The question is whether you are willing to make it." Before Korsana could respond, alarms blared. "Creatures approaching," a worker shouted. 3 beings emerged from the valley. They were similar to Beko but different. Smaller, with blue-gray scales instead of black and crowned with crystalline horns that matched the formations in the valley. They moved with the same predatory grace, their eyes fixed on the colony buildings. Workers ran for shelter. Korsana reached for her weapon. Taemin grabbed her arm. "No. Let me try something first." "Are you insane? They will tear you apart." "Maybe," Taemin said calmly. "Or maybe they will listen." He walked toward the edge of the colony, into the open ground between the buildings and the valley. Behind him, Jiwon released Beko from the cargo bay. The massive black titan emerged and immediately moved to Taemin's side. The 3 native creatures stopped. Their attention shifted from the buildings to Baeko. Recognition passed between them, not of individuals but of species. Predators acknowledging each other. Taemin stood between them, small and fragile compared to these massive beings. He raised his hands slowly, showing he carried no weapons. Then he did something unexpected. He sat down on the rocky ground, making himself vulnerable. Beko rumbled beside him but did not move. The Titan understood. This was not a fight. This was communication. The 3 native creatures watched. They tilted their heads in unison, confused by this strange behavior. Prey did not sit down. Prey ran or fought, but this small being did neither. One of the creatures, larger than the others with darker scales, took a step forward. Then another. It approached Taemin slowly, nostrils flaring as it caught his scent. Beko tensed but remained still, trusting Taemin's judgment. The native creature stopped close enough to strike. Its crystalline horns caught the sunlight, casting rainbow patterns on the ground. It studied Taemin with intelligent yellow eyes. Taemin began speaking in Korean again, the same tone he had used with Beko. "I know this is your home. I know you are protecting it. That is what we would do too. But these people need the crystals to survive. Can we find a way to share?" The creature could not understand his words, but it understood his intent. Taemin was not threatening. He was asking. Minutes passed. The colony workers watched from windows, hardly breathing. Hana's hand hovered over her communicator, ready to call for emergency extraction. Jiwon recorded everything, his hands shaking. The native creature made a decision. It turned away from Taman and walked back toward the valley. The other two creatures followed. But before disappearing into the crystalline formations, the leader looked back. It made a sound, a deep rumbling call. Beko responded with a similar sound, a conversation in a language beyond words. Taman stood slowly. Hana, scan the valley. Find out where the crystals grow most densely. Hana pulled out her scanner, confused but compliant. The eastern section has the highest concentration. The western section has fewer formations, but they are still viable. The creatures made their homes in the eastern section, Taman said. They are protecting their nests, their young. That is why they attack so fiercely. Corsana approached carefully. How do you know that? Because that is what any parent would do. We have been mining in their nursery. The solution became clear. The colony relocated their mining operations to the western section of the valley. It required more work and yielded slightly fewer crystals per day, but it was sustainable. In exchange, the creatures stopped their attacks. They watched the mining operations from a distance but did not interfere. Over the next week, Taman established a boundary system using natural markers. The creatures learned these boundaries quickly, and the miners learned to respect them. When a young worker accidentally crossed into protected territory, the creatures escorted him back to the boundary without harm, a warning, not an attack. On the last day before departure, Taman stood at the valley's edge with Beko. The three native creatures appeared from the crystalline formations. They approached the boundary and stopped. The leader made that rumbling call again. Beko responded. Then surprisingly, the leader lowered its head in a gesture Taman recognized. Respect. Acknowledgement between survivors and protectors. Back on the ship, Corsana approached Taman with something like wonder in her eyes. You did in 1 week what our military could not do in months. How? I listened, Taman said simply. I did not assume I knew better. I did not try to dominate or control. I just tried to understand what they needed and find a way for everyone to live. The journey back to the academy took several days. During that time, word of the mission's success spread through coalition channels. Requests poured in from other colonies, other outposts, other situations where humans might help bridge the gap between civilized space and death world creatures. Commander Yelsara was waiting when they arrived. The Council has made a decision. The Death World Integration Program will expand. We need more instructors, more facilities, more resources, and you, Cadet Park, will lead it. I am still a cadet, Taman said. Not anymore. Yelsara smiled, a rare expression for the usually serious Mindari. You have been promoted to instructor. Effective immediately. Your first task is to train 20 new specialists from various species. Your second task is to write the official guidelines for Death World creature interaction.